Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In today's episode I am just going to talk about my controversial Linux and free and open source opinions. So the reason why I'm doing this video is because a few days ago I saw TLG's video on this very topic. So it used to be the Linux Gamer and now it's just Technology, Linux and Gaming. And he put out a tweet sometime in the past asking his audience for controversial opinions on Linux and free and open source software, and I am not on Twitter, and the reasons for that is a totally unrelated story, but I decided that I would like to share my controversial opinions because I have a few with my audience and we can discuss about them. So, of course I made a slideshow for that, so let's see what are my controversial thoughts on Linux and the free and open source software world. The first one is, there is no such thing as the Linux community. So a lot of people talk about the Linux community as like there would be some kind of overarching theme for all the Linux users in the world, and this kind of annoys me because there are a lot of well, antagonism is not really the good word, but like different interests colliding in the so-called Linux community. It's more like a Linux user base, really. I guess like the developers, the kernel developers should be called the Linux kernel developer community. They are the closest thing that is actually a community in that. And so I think this phrase is overused and frankly quite meaningless. The second one is that the Arch Linux community is actually helpful and nice. So I think it is a controversial opinion because a lot of people really use the Arch community as kind of the bad apple in the whole Linux world, where on every other distribution's forums everyone is just really helpful and will give you advice on any kind of problem you might have, and on the Arch Linux forums, if you don't give enough details or avoid answering some technical questions, or you show a very huge unwillingness to research your own problem, then you won't really be helped, and sometimes your thread will be put in the dustbin and some not really nice comments will be said to you. And so here I use the word community, you can see, just after I said that I don't like the Linux community expression, but here in the Arch Linux community I definitely just mean the community of the forums. So not all Arch Linux users, of course, but what I think is that actually if you have the right mindset for using Arch, so I already talked about this, that Arch Linux requires a certain mindset, it's not for everyone, and part of this mindset is being kind of independent in trying to solve your problems and being able to read the wiki, read manuals, and well, if someone tells you that, okay, I don't really understand your program, or you don't really understand your problem, please give the output of these comments so I can see what exactly is happening on your system. And if you don't do that, then what kind of help do you expect? So I think if you are abiding by the forum rules, and even if you don't abide them, the first time usually you will get a very moderate warning that what are the rules that you should follow when asking questions. And well, you have to be really persistently disrespectful of the rules and of the community members to actually be talked down to or banned. But I can tell you that happens sometimes. So, but in general, Arch Linux community is helpful and nice and will help you solve your problems. They actually helped me a lot. The third one is, distribution agnostic package management doesn't make much sense. So I know a lot of people talk about Flatpaks and and the snappy, or what is it, snap packages, the canonical version of that, and the app image, and everyone is like up in arms that this is the future because Linux is so fragmented, and what a nonsense thing that every software has to be packaged for every major distribution at least, and you cannot expect the developers to develop for Linux if they have to develop for Arch Linux and Debian and Solus and whatever. And so what really forms my opinion on this topic is going to be in the description below. This is something I asked the Arch community on the Arch forums about, and they gave me a very interesting link about how developers should not care about Linux distributions. Developers should develop their software and then give that software, put that out in the public, so each distribution with their own repository maintainers can basically get this software and package it up to the standards of said distribution. So of course, if you are making proprietary code and you don't want to share your source code, then packaging your software is going to be much more difficult for the maintainers of the distributions repositories, of course. So what this distribution agnostic package management is actually only meaningful for proprietary software, and that brings us to our fourth controversial thought, which is bringing more proprietary software to Linux would just make it more like Windows. So a lot of people argue that the low market share, the scary low market share, is caused by proprietary developers being unwilling to develop for Linux, and a lot of people need to use, for some reason, Adobe Suite or Microsoft Office Suite or some other applications like AutoCAD. And well, there are actually a lot of programs where the proprietary software is really just higher quality in general than the free and open source alternatives, but do we really want those proprietary software on Linux? So from the security and privacy point of view, the biggest advantage of Linux over Windows and macOS is that it is open source, and it is well reviewed by many more eyes. So the QA is the whole world for Linux and all open source, and for especially the free and open source, the liberated software. Anyone can take a look at the source code, and anyone can discover if there are problems with it. And of course, this goes for both the security of the system and it goes for the privacy of the user. Once you start having proprietary software en masse on your computer, what is exactly the advantage of Linux over Windows? What is the advantage having proprietary software that you have no idea, no one has any idea except for the developers, that you put on your computer? So going back to the number 3 there, the distribution package maintainers are an extra step getting a software from the developer to the user, and an extra step can mean sometimes problems, like the time when the Budgie desktop was compiled without taking into account that the GNOME base has changed, and that made some changes necessary in the Budgie desktop, and then the package maintainers forgot about it, so we had a non-functional Budgie desktop for like 1.5 weeks. There were solutions to that though, so you don't have to go panic. Anyways, that's a kind of a drawback, but also they can serve as kind of a sanity check on new software when they package a new version. They of course don't have the time and the resources to check all the source codes, but at least there is the option there, and they provide an extra step of in the security of your system. If you start just bringing proprietary code to your computer, then you will have no idea what exactly is going on there. So these are my 4 controversial thoughts on Linux and free and open source software. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think that probably you have some disagreements with me, because this is what controversial opinions mean, that people don't agree on them. And so please get into arguments with me, and if you have your own controversial Linux and free and open source opinions, share those in the comments too. And if you would like to see more Linux content from me, then subscribe or add this playlist to your profile so you can watch these videos later. And well, give a like if you like this, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!